Question 1. The evolving definition of masculinity in the modern world. Guys, how do you think masculinity at the moment is in men in general?
What are we defining as a man, sorry? Because we're in a time where...
Cis men.
As in someone with an X and Y chromosome? Is that
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking about, I just want to make sure we've got a definition. Right, so we're talking about an adult male. Yeah? So
Yes, we're talking about
over 18, okay. That's why I wanted to make sure that we're on the same page. I don't know, what do you consider a man to be, first of all? So we can then decide whether someone's behavior is toxic.
Someone's got a penis.
Well, I guess that's what I would Alright, so would you say you're a man's man? Whatever that means. Would you say that?
I like to think so, yeah.
So in your circle, you would say that, generally speaking, that you're one of the lads. You're not
Definitely.
Yeah. So you'll argue that you're not a follower, you're a leader. And when you say toxic, would you say that you've got some toxic traits, whatever society deems as toxic?
Be honest.
That question. That's a good question. Yeah, probably. I probably have.
Yeah?
Yeah, I probably have. Yeah.
And I think when discussing what being toxic is, I think some of the traits which people deem as toxic are some of the things that's made the society what it is and created this world. As much as we no longer, what's the word, need to go into a farm or field to kill animals to eat, you've got some guy who goes somewhere and slaughters the animals. And I'm pretty sure in the olden days, it would have been probably the toxic man who would run after a lion or a bear or a tiger. I think maybe it's best to ask the ladies what they do is toxic.
Any ladies in the audience want to chime in on the topic? Hands up, please. Everyone's shy. These are the people silent in the comments where just there, just clicking like quietly. Any of the gents want to chime in? You're all shy.
No, I'm not really.
Huh?
What do you think is toxic masculinity?
No, I don't know what toxic is. I've been described as that, but I don't know that. But I was gonna ask.
Say Future Junior.
I was gonna ask. I don't think I've been called this sassy, so I don't know if this sassy thing is going around. You know.
Sassy.
Yeah, because I'm 22, so I'm fairly young compared to.
What was that meant to be?
Hey, Joe Wick.
Gabriel, we done this before.
No, let's do it again, please. What are you saying about age, sorry, please?
I'm just saying, I'm young.
Compared to
anyone over the age of, I don't know, 35, close to 40.
Hey, rules are dropped today still. Pause.
How old are you?
Oh, big pause.
How old are you?
I'm 22.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your son
Wow.
is nearly your age.
Your son?
Yes.
Damn. No, I'm joking. No, but yeah, obviously, I don't know if you lot have been called sassy or anyone here has been
What
called
does that
sassy.
mean? Listen, I'm old.
I don't know what it means, but I've been called it.
Yeah.
But an example I can say is that a man that, I don't know, let me get a silly one. If man sneezes and he says, bless you, that's sassy. It's like that. I don't know if you guys get it, but.
What the hell?
I think you do. Okay, gentlemen, there.
Okay, so I follow the Liveshow a lot. And one thing I've found is that some of these guys, how business source women think that women want the man to have three things: good looks, money, status. So where toxic masculinity can come into it is if a man uses either one of those, good looks, money, or status, or all of them to mistreat women. So if he has all those things, he doesn't necessarily have to be faithful. So it's a man using his ability to
Take
get away
advantage.
with things that he shouldn't get away with, but all because his desire that he can.
Can you describe somebody in a public eye, or even if it's somebody in a series or a film, who you deem as what someone says is toxic? So someone who's in the public eye, or someone who's a character in a film or something, that you would say is a definition of toxic masculinity?
I don't like to judge people because I don't want to be accused of as being a hit or anything.
No, just...
I just think that that's what people will deem masculinity, toxic masculinity.
Okay, Andrew Tate. That's the guy that's everyone mentioned his name. Would you say he's toxic? Who would say Andrew Tate is toxic in here? So basically, no one in here would deem Andrew Tate as toxic. Oh. Okay, let's take this gentleman on the microphone. So maybe he can, no, please. So he can maybe divulge.
Yeah, I don't really ever pay attention to this stuff though, because I'm not really on social media. And I think a lot of this toxic stuff comes from being on social media a lot. I think when I remove myself from that, I don't hear any of these conversations anymore. So, that's how I see it.
Well, why would you deem Mr. Tate toxic? Just out of curiosity.
Because the things I've seen him say,
For example,
again, I only see headlines. Maybe you can give me an example of something you think is not toxic that he said, and I can challenge that.
I think a lot of the stuff he says is tongue in cheek. A lot of the stuff he does is for clout, to stir trouble. Whether he genuinely believes them, I'm not too sure. His character he portrays, I would consider to be toxic. The character he portrays. Whether he is toxic or not, I don't know. But some of the things he says, I believe is tongue in cheek. Do I agree with some of the stuff he says? Probably. Because a lot of the stuff that people deem as toxic is what I think a man is whatever a man is. I don't think there's a definition for a man. As in, I'm talking the way a man acts. I think we've got all different friends who are men. And I think we can say each and every one of them are men. Yeah. But maybe some of them are a bit more boisterous than the average guy. And I think it's those traits, unfortunately, that generally make successful men and men that people deem in high regard. Because I doubt Andrew Tate would be in the position he is, not to praise him, if his character wasn't like it is. He seems very, if I want it, I'm getting it.
He's like a supreme alpha.
Yeah, whatever you deem an alpha male to be. I think it's fair to say that in whatever setting he might walk into, he seems articulate, he appears to have money. Yeah. He may not be your type looks-wise, but I'm pretty sure there are, for those who like that type of man, they may find him attractive. So I guess, what is it about him which we're calling toxic? Is probably the fact that you mentioned the three things, that maybe he plays on it a bit too much and uses to advantage to kind of see women as disposable. And I think that's where the toxic part comes. And I've been that toxic guy before. If that's what toxic is, when you feel you've got something and people become dispensable. So it's like, you meet a woman, you realise that I can replace you. Not you, sorry, but you can find a woman, and then I think you might have been there before when you maybe a bit younger. You feel that you might get with a woman, and if she's acting up, you just think, well, there's another one of you. So
like that now.
So, and I think, is that what some may deem as, is that what you would say is the toxic thing?
I don't judge anyone, so I'm not hateful.
Oh, you don't judge?
Stop that.
Wait.
Everyone does. Everyone.
You don't judge?
No, it's observation.
No, I'm saying, do you judge?
What is up to the person?
No, I'm asking you, do you judge? Yes. It says no. Do you judge?
Yeah.
Yes.
But you know, even if you say someone can sing well, you judge them.
Yes.
Because often we like to pretend that we don't judge people. I judge people all the time.
Everyone.
I think
Yes.
you probably made an assessment of me already in the past 5 minutes. You think I'm a wanker. I don't wank though. But one of you ladies, you must have been a toxic guy before. One of you, come on, there's at least 7 of you. One of you definitely met a guy who is toxic. You see them out and your blood boils. You know, like literally, like your blood boils. So, what was it about him that was toxic? Because I can't talk about toxic. I'm not a woman. You ladies will know what it is. So educate us.
You need to be educated, man. Educated.
Educate us.
I knew you were going to come over here.
Yeah, because you were nodding.
Hi. Well, I think you've touched touched on a very poignant point. You said that toxicity can't really be defined by like an overall general sweeping assumption. I think it's specific to individuals. So what might be toxic for me might not be toxic for the next lady. She might think that that's okay, that's acceptable. In my personal opinion, I feel like it's more of an arrogance that doesn't resonate well with myself. I like confidence, and I meet a guy that's confident, that's one thing. But
Thin line though, isn't it?
it's a very thin line, there is a very thin line. But I think in terms of the red flags, shall we say, from the off when you meet somebody, if they come across as arrogant, then that's a sign that they could potentially have toxic traits. Now, going further as to what that could mean for a woman being in a relationship with a gentleman that is overly arrogant, it could potentially mean, and I don't really want to go into it too much, like, it's not my personal experience, but it could potentially mean that the way that they treat you, as you said, is as though you're disposable.
I'm tired because I'm working, trying to make sure that I'm not seeing like tomorrow or next week. I'm aiming for what am I going to be able to provide for you 2 months. What am I able to do for you like in 1 year, 2 years? You get what I'm saying? So during that period, that 4-month period of just being here all the time, working like a madman, I was even losing my hair a tiny bit. I remember like in the comments someone said, "Raw, is your hair thinning?" It hit me hard, I can't even lie. So anyway, she must have dropped me out, circled back a week later, tried to circle the block, spin the block, come back. I said no, because I knew I'm going to spend a lot of time here still. And since then, I've been working like a madman. And most people will be like, "Oh yeah, you need to take a day off, blah, blah, blah." But I feel like, as men, masculine men, you have to show that you're able to provide, you know what I mean? You're able to, I see especially with you lot's generation where they're only like 22. On Twitter, girls are saying, "Oh, if you don't drive, I'm saying it, you can't talk to me."
No, it's 4 pipes now.
Whoa, pause. Yeah, I know. But like the expectation for your age group is, to me, is insane because at your age, we were driving dusty puntos. And you were the man if you had like an Astra or a Tigra or a Puma, you get what I'm saying? Well, fast forward now, at your age, I made a joke this morning, I said, "Oh, CLA's on sale," because everyone I'm seeing is driving a Mercedes CLA's, you know what I mean? But it's the pressure that you lot are under, and if you live at home at your age now, it's seen as, my man lives at home with his mom, he's probably sharing a bunk bed. Whereas us, there's still some of us who are age mates that live at home, but I feel like with your generation, there's a lot more, you know what I mean, pressure. What do you think, April?
Men's mental health. This probably goes back to the toxic masculinity thing. I think people are caring a little bit more about men and their mental health. I think genuinely, who people care about, essentially, when you look at the old school films, is children first, then women, and probably dogs, and then probably men afterwards. I think with men, we're just so used to just getting on with it, and I'm probably a victim to that as well. And how many times though as men do we actually reach out? Because we can talk about,
It's true, we don't.
when you always try to be the strong man, people just think you're always okay.
When you're feeling down or low, have you got someone you can talk to?
Yeah, so I've got about 2 friends that I can have a cry to.
Oh really?
Yeah. Like sometimes.
Don't cry to me, bro.
I've cried to one of my friends before. When,
no judgment.
Yeah, when I was.
I
think what was it like? It was about what, 2016.
You cried to me like a year and a bit ago, outside your mom's house. You know when?
Shit.
You know when? I know.
That for me is not crying though. That for me is not crying. Obviously it's crying, but
It's still crying.
that's not crying.
But that's the latest one.
If you're that, you're meant to cry then. You know what I mean? But I'm talking, I was overwhelmed, and to the point where I wanted to do someone something.
Oh.
And I knew that if I'd done that person something, I'll get myself in trouble. So the anger and frustration of the whole situation, and the fact that person owed me something, and I owe someone else something, and if I did that person, it was that rigmarole, and I And I think, as men, a lot of the problems we've had is societal, a lot of it stems with us. Meaning, when one of my mates, his girl cheated on him a while back, and when he came and cried,
Oh. Get off me, man, you idiot.
But any guy here who has had a situation with a woman and has maybe cried in their own room, maybe not in the bedroom, maybe one of you has had a tear at one time in your room, but he was talking to me about the situation, and when he was like, he cried in it, and then he I'm laughing now, and then because we was next to each other talking,
This one.
like he kind of broke down, and I he was crying. And it took me about 20 seconds to kind of hold him firmly, because at first I didn't know where to put my arm. I was a bit.
Wait, when you held him firmly, he cried more.
Yeah, he cried more, yeah. He did a good cry, like the top was, like it was soiled. And then he did cry. But I'm going to assume that, have you cried outside of a situation that wasn't death? And wasn't physical pain?
Never.
Yeah, and generally, we
I can't lie, I'm bad with it. Because if I'm in moments like that, I'll give an example, even when my mum died, and I went to cry, I walked the block, and I walked far away from everyone.
To cry?
I was feeling, I was barling. Then I walked back, I said bye to my car, jumped to my car, drove off, and I was barling all the way home.
I get that.
And the man was like, right, you never cried. And even at the funeral, the same thing, I just filmed it, and everyone went, and they were like, right, why are you still chilling? I said, I'll see you in an hour, and just barling by the grave. But I feel like, with us, like, you know, like when you've always been seen as, even at my mum's funeral, my uncle must have tapped me and said, he goes, you're now the next one up. He goes, don't cry, you're the man. Like, everyone in the family looks up to you, even though, like, most of your cousins are older than you. So, like, from little, there's always been, like, this expectation of, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. So, certain times when, reversing back to the first thing where I said, she's dropped me out because I'm always working too hard, I'm thinking beyond myself and all my cousins who never were able to make it over here from Africa, who are still back in Nigeria in the village. Because like when I go out there, like certain times I'm thinking to myself, I can't even go there wearing like my watch or showing fancy stuff, you know what I mean? Because some of my cousins have never left the village. All they know is Imo and nothing else. They don't even know what Lagos looks like. And these are people who are like 35, 40, 45, 50, like all their lives been spent in the village. So like when they look up to you, they look up to you as this guy who's strong, solid, he never has bad days. But when I have bad days, a lot of times I'll probably speak at the moment to Gabriel the most, or maybe Wes and Mark, but I don't know, I've got to a point where I think due to being so hardened, crying is just like, I look at it and it's like, you know, if I'm gonna cry, let me just lock my door in my house, turn up the music, because I don't even want my neighbor upstairs to
why is that? Why is it that when boys generally are raised, they're told not to cry? And sometimes even mums, and I'm gonna probably say mums say that to their sons. Like maybe like if, let's say, a daughter's given more of an allowance to fall over and cry and continue crying. Whereas I think a boy may be given 3.7 seconds, like, pause it now, you've cried enough. Whereas and part of that is why some men are how they are. They're so tough. And when you say men are not emotional, me punching a wall is emotion. We always seem to think emotion is tears. Do you know what I mean? Me being frustrated, for instance, you might not cry, but your outlet might be something else. You might beat someone up or punch someone or take it out on someone else, but it's not your tears. Because what I think crying is an outlet. And the frustration of where you can't do anything, so this drops. Do you know what I mean? Whereas yours might be maybe, would you say you're emotional?
No, not at all.
And where do you think that stems from?
Growing up, I suppose. Like, going back to what you said, if I fell when I was young and I started crying, my dad literally would say, "What are you crying for, you little bad man?" That's what he said to me. So I could not cry at all. So if I did, I have to hide from him.
So literally, like you would run to the corner and you'll cry in the corner.
Yeah. I couldn't cry in front of my dad. You're batting. That's what he said. Get up, you little batting man. What are you crying for?
And what do you think that has done to you? But can we get Chinks and Manny in now? Can we quickly?
Yeah.
What would you say? So, what would you say that's done to you, in the sense of where you say you're going to a corner and cry? Because
Well, you know, I've raised my son the same way, apart from the Batman bit. I have to tell him, no, don't cry, you can't cry.
Why not?
Why? That's how I was raised, isn't it? So that's what you do, innit? You mimic what you see sometimes on every time. But yeah, I'm not into the crying stuff, man. And I'm not affectionate either. Because I
in
was
general, as in like,
yeah.
so when it comes to women, as in, when you say you're not affectionate, and the holding hand
Well,
things.
no.
Oh, you don't do that?
No.
Right.
And me and my girl get into it because of it.
So let's say, okay, I'm not the biggest fan of holding hands either.
Yeah.
But let's say, for instance, you're in the
I'm
cinema.
a sweet boy. I'm on that.
Let's say you're in the cinema and you're holding hands in the cinema. Are you kind of like, you're holding my hand for you, not lost?
No, I do that. I'll do that, but not all the time.
Hold on, wait. Is that because it's like shadowy and dark? So,
Okay.
so is it perception then as to why you don't do that?
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah, no, I ain't gonna lie, I'm kind of wrapped by what you said. Not like personal, but it just, in my opinion, I feel like our jobs as parents is to raise our kids to be better versions
Yeah,
of
I
us.
agree.
And like for your son not being able to be emotionally available in life, I just think, like, because I deal with a lot of men in where I work and stuff like that, and a lot of men are like suicidal and stuff like that. And the main reason is because them man don't talk. They don't say anything. And they don't,
I know.
and the way it comes out mad violent and so on. So I just think I think it's our role as parents, especially to make sure that at least, if it's not to people outside, to us, ourselves, that they could be emotionally available to us and kind of express if they feel the way or so and so. So yeah, that's just my opinion.
My son is not afraid to talk to me at all.
Do you think he's afraid to be emotional around you? Or period?
Now, no. He's 20 now, so no.
So do you feel like, sorry,
When he was younger, yeah, but now.
do you feel like he's had to find that externally and then come back to be able to demonstrate that?
Probably, because he's been living with me now for like 7 years. So he's with his mum. So he must have learned, he's learned a lot from her.
I think we've. So
You just want to say, so obviously we were speaking about, sort of toxicity and stuff like that, and masculinity and stuff like that. But that obviously relates to what we're talking about right now. But I feel like, especially I think in most societies, whether that's West or African or Asian or whatever, I think women usually have communities of other women who they can obviously fall back on, right, for like emotional support. Men on the other hand, there's like you're meant to be sort of solitary, right? You're meant to be alone, and all the emotions that you go through, the challenges that you face, and you're meant to sort of discover and face that yourself. That's essentially the definition of a man, I would probably say. Obviously, it's individual to each person, right? Men probably, being toxic, or the sort of traits that we identify as being toxic is individual and subjective, but aggression is something that every single person has, and I think that person over there mentioned that the ways in which we sort of express, he said toxic traits, but it's actually aggression that we express. But I think toxicity is something that is subjective, but aggression is something that every single person has, just because we're human. But being a man, I think, it's strange because being a woman is obviously defined, but being a man is obviously through individual challenges and experience.
when's the last time you had a cry outside of violence or someone passing away?
Recently.
Okay, don't tell me the situation.
Sure.
What was it out of? What was the reason?
Personal challenges mainly. Not that I lost someone or anything like that, but I mean, I think you actually described it pretty well. It's that it's as if you're facing, certain things, and you can see a sort of solutions or that is the way the exit, but it's as if you feel as if you have no options, right?
Would you do that in front of a woman? Like, not your wife, would you do that in front of a girl that you're interested in?
It would be hard for me to do so.
Okay, would if she asked you how was your day, would you say to her, oh, and I had a cry?
No, I'll say I'm not too bad.
I wonder how many women would entertain that conversation with a guy you're talking to, who maybe you're seeing, you're doing naked exercise.
Shots fired.
I wonder what would be in your head if he says, oh yeah, it's the 5th job I've applied for and I didn't get it. And then, I wonder what, but you can, out of frustration, you could be applying for jobs.
Can I just chime in there? I think at the same time we have people that we can be dependable on in different varieties and capacities. For example, you're not gonna go and moan about how much tax you have to pay for X amount of things to your friend who is not having any luck with income at the moment. For example, same way, if you know you have like in my circle, I know that I have particular friends where, for whatever the need may be or whatever the conversation may be, I'll go to this person instead of going to that person. You know what I mean? So I feel like for as much as that might be frowned upon or one might, I think we have to use and be able to exercise emotional intelligence and be able to have that understanding that it's not everything that you need to go to every person or this particular person with. For example, if you're trying to date a woman and you're trying to be assertive and demonstrate, masculinity to a certain extent, you're not gonna call her up and be like, "Oh, babe, do you know what? I was just having enough." Like, you're not gonna do it.
But don't women say they want men to be emotionally available? So shouldn't that be okay?
Yeah, but there's also
you say no.
There's also emotional intelligence as well. So and you have to have this. Like I say, it's not every conversation for every person. But yeah, Chink, sure.
I just want to say, you lot all sound so mature and like politically correct, and I commend that. But am I like the only traditional man who's not into crying and doesn't think it's good? No. Why do men want to be so emotional like that nowadays? I'm not crying. Why do you just want to cry? I don't get it. I'm advocating for it.
No, I tell you what it is, yeah.
Say we got beef now, they just trampled you. We're going over there. And I said, get it, you know what? Just calm, and I'm barring. What's it? You gonna call me? What's happening?
Okay, I don't cry for anything. So as I said, the last time I had a cry outside of violence or outside of someone passing away was 2016.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, but I think it's when you look at violence in general, it's a form of frustration. So for instance, when you beat a child or you beat a dog, it's because you've told them numerous amount of times, they're not listening. The frustration is an outlet. So sometimes it's the hitting, usually. And I think when someone cries, it's usually a form of frustration. A bit like, let's say Mike Tyson was coming to do something to you. You might not cry, but as he's walking towards you, he's like, oh. But I think when you talk about mental health, and I think, yes, I don't think boys should just be crying for anything. So I'm going to contradict myself. However, I do believe that as men, I should be able to come to you with my boy, and you shouldn't laugh at me. And this is the thing, because
I'm not gonna laugh in your face. When you leave.
So let's say, for instance, let's say I've got a business, and I lose my business. And let's say I lose £100,000. And I come to your yard.
No, I don't cry a lot.
And I'm like,
I'll be hugging you. That's mad.
What do you say?
Yeah.
And how long can I cry for?
As long as you want. You're crying, bro.
And the moment you leave, he's gonna phone me and say, "Your boy's a bad man."
But this is the thing, though. Like, man. So let's say, like, I've known you for a while now.
Yeah.
Like, how emotional is is a man allowed to be in regards to a man's mental health? Because if I come to your house and I'm crying because I've lost my business, that's something I can relate to now.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Don't do that.
what if I add that as seasoning?
No,
I can't season it.
Just don't season it, man. But I feel like, yeah, you can cry. I don't know, me personally, me and chicks have different views on this. Like, I'm not saying that, yeah, man should just walk around crying and just cry anyhow. But I feel like you have to allow and afford your friends to be emotional.
How many cries a year?
Bro, it's
not per 3 years.
It's not, one can't say, yeah, you get this many cries per year because, bro, you can have a terrible year. You can have, like, I had 2 weeks, like 3 weeks ago where I lost 3 people. That's a bad 2 weeks. I didn't cry about it, but then if we fast forward.
Wait, you lost 3 people and didn't cry once?
Obviously, that's a different conversation, and obviously, civil service, etc. We'll go there later.
Oh,
but like, dependent on what's going on and what that year is saying, and so on and so forth, and you have to look at who the people are as well. And it's important to have these conversations to know who your friends are. You get me? Because if, like me knowing you, if you pulled up and you're crying, I know that bro, it's intense. You get me? Whereas there are other people that it might be like, do you know?
So basically, just don't go to chinks if I'm upset.
Definitely. but I meant, like, you can't imagine now. Imagine I pull up to your house and I'm like, I gave her, and I just start crying, and then fast forward a week and a half, I'm crying again, bro. You're gonna question me.
The only thing I would not tolerate my mate crying for is about a woman. That's the only thing. That's the only thing I'm going to take to man up. That's the only thing I'm going to be like, what are you doing?
No, but hear me out. There can be consequences of the fallout with the woman that lead to other things.
No, but I mean, obviously, if maybe the child's not yours, that's different. But I mean, a woman's done something to you, and you come to my yard and you're crying because maybe she cheated on you. No, even my boy was crying. After I was like, bro, you done it too. But he did done it too as well.
Sorry, I lost my point. I was laughing at that. I think I just want to say this. I think it's very important for men in particular to have a safe space, as you guys have already said. And I think as humans, crying is an innate emotion. It's something that we can't control. It just comes out. That defense that he's built up over the years of, I'm not going to cry in front of my friends, that's taught. That's not innate. So as you were saying before, like with your son, or if your son was to cry, you'd be like, stop crying, you know, that kind of thing. We need to, I feel so, we need to shake that out, because as this gentleman rightly pointed out over here, we're seeing the after effects of what that can do to somebody. Their innate outlet becomes aggression, and that's what we need to work on, especially within our community, because it's a common thing. I don't know any black males that are comfortable with crying or openly talk about crying and stuff like that, but the suicide rate is going up. You know, we have a lot of issues with things like this. So we need to have these conversations. It's very important, and it's also important to have a safe space. Without the laughing, I know it's funny at the time, but it's something that's really serious and it affects people's lives. You know, so what if your friend does come to you and he is crying about a woman? It doesn't matter what he's crying about. If that's something that's taken him to the top of his load and he's now feeling as though, I can't take this anymore, I'm going to cry, you shouldn't judge that person for that. That should just be you being a friend and saying, you know what, we're going to get through this together. That's what I think.
And in relation to like your boyfriend or your partner coming home and start buying because you can't get a new job, like if you're in a 2-week relationship, that's crazy. I'm gonna block you. But it's like my
That's not good for men's mental health, is it?
No. You don't know me to be crying on my shoulder like that. But if we're 2 years in and you're struggling or whatever, I prefer you sat down and cried rather than walking around the house in a strop, giving me short answers, all of that. Like, someone you meet just off the bat, as a woman, I wouldn't cry in front of a man I met 2 weeks ago. But in a secure relationship, of course, I'm not going to get upset if my partner cries in front of me.
She basically said, don't date unless your finances are on point.
I'm not gonna lie, if I go to a girl and I'm like, oh, I'm sad and I start crying, she's gonna call me sassy and I'm gonna be like this guy over here. I'm gonna that's me, it's fun.
I think that's what society has always imposed on us as men. We're always supposed to be strong, right? If we're crying, we see, we're deemed weak. And this is going back from let's use some since slavery time.
Ain't that a bit factual though?
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna just bail out, don't you lack control? So in terms of control, you're a bit weak.
Well, it depends on the situation. Okay, I'll take him for example. If he falls down, his dad is basically telling him, be strong. But you're hurt. You're supposed to cry. You're supposed to let that emotions out.
Why?
Because you are hurt.
No, that's fine, but why do you, if you're, let's say in terms of boxing, if that will get you killed, do you know what I mean? As a man, I think it's more about emotional intelligence I advocate for, because emotional men are dangerous. They're the stalkers, the murderers. They don't know how to control their emotions, do you know what I mean? I think it's about emotional intelligence. You don't have to bawl, but you have to be emotionally intelligent. Do you get what I mean?
So what's your outlet then?
It depends. I smoke weed.
But that's what I'm saying.
It depends.
Everyone's got different.
Yeah. So why do men want to cry?
Because that's the one that comes natural. That's just the reality.
I think obviously there's difference of opinions all around the room. Like you clearly are not an advocate for crying. But you see, my thing is, I'm not saying men should not cry. I personally, I'm not saying men should not cry. It's obviously going to be circumstantial and so on and so forth. But as friends, we have to be able to lean on each other to be emotional support, and that comes from being emotionally intelligent, like you were saying. You were saying some wayward stuff that I don't agree with, but obviously there's a level of emotional intelligence that I think as friendship groups we need to have. You know what I mean? I think it's important for a friend to be able to, if they're going through something, they should be able to holler at me and say, right, you know what, bro, it's getting on top for me. And they should be able to say, all right, cool, let's link up, or let's talk about it, or let's hash it out, or even make a plan. Or maybe, just maybe, they just need to just let it out. And you, as a friend, you need to be able to be there to support that, whatever that looks like. So that's my thinking.
So another question from Maurice.
No, it's not really a question. It was just to touch on the crying topic. Gabriel did say something about men shouldn't just be crying for anything, like over a girl or like situations like that. But I feel like, and I say this from someone that has a brother going through mental health in a mental health home. It's like if my brother wasn't like able to cry in front of his friends or in front of his brothers, maybe he wouldn't lead to stuff like mental health. So it's like crying avoids those things. Do you get it? So it's like even though being a man's man, like crying don't fall under that category. It's like, yeah, just talking about in terms of mental health, stuff like crying, it stops that because it lets people like express their emotions without doing silly things or having to go to a hospital and take these different medications to then realize that they have all these problems. But a cry can like just avoid all of that stuff. Do you get it, kind of thing?
What would you, and you don't need to answer this question by the way, maybe if I'm digging too deep, just come to show. What would you say was the root cause, and what would you say could have been done to circumvent that? So the root cause first, so that we can be educated to sort of see what the problem might have been, and what could have been done to circumvent that, so, as in to stop that happening.
That's a difficult question to answer, to be honest. I don't really know the root cause, because it's still a situation I'm going through, you get it? So it's just like, but I'm just thinking, like because thinking back to his like behaviours over the years, because it's not like just something that happened overnight, it's something that's been going on for like 4 or 5 years, you get it? But I'm just thinking over the years, I haven't really seen him cry. But the situation he's in now is like, if he was to cry over the years or have someone to cry to, maybe he wouldn't be in the situation as he's in now, you get it? Because that all the emotions that he's built up and all that he's built, it's like you have something to release it in crying, you get it?
So would you say he didn't have an outlet? Because my only thing is that crying shouldn't be seen as the only outlet.
Definitely not.
Do you know what I mean? So as I'm asking you, did you not have an outlet other than You know, maybe just having someone to talk to. Because I'm just trying to find out.
Other than crying, what's another outlet?
So I'm gonna let you answer that in a second. Just something for you to think about is, I wanted to know, is that factual or assumptive, number one, and also that's a lot to deal with. So do you have an outlet to deal with that? Was gonna be my question.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna ask. What's another outlet other than crying? Because I'm not really too sure.
I either go to the gym or I do yoga. Because when I do yoga for an hour, I can't think of anything else apart from breathing and balancing. So, and I've learned that I've got friends that I can talk to. And I said, the pressure that I've been under is a lot for the past 8 years, but I've voluntarily done that. I've got no one to blame apart from me. And I think sometimes, I'm not saying this is your brother's problem, to take your brother outside of this. Sometimes being accountable is sometimes the outlet that you need. As mad as it sounds, is owning what's going on. I don't blame anybody for things that happen in my life anymore. I own my shit. Because most of the problems I've got are self-inflicted. A lot of us self-sabotage. And then we blame everything else. I know how I self-sabotage. So when I put myself in difficult situations, it's me. And that's my outlet, to be accountable. That doesn't mean I'm talking about your brother or anybody else, but my outlet is, Gabriel, this happened on Thursday. Where did you go wrong here? Forget what this guy done to you. What was your part in this so that it doesn't happen again? And a lot of people don't, and I can't talk for everybody, I think some people don't accept their part in something and blame everybody else.
What if you have no wrongdoing in that situation?
Even me and you meeting, for instance, let's say we exchange numbers. Let's say I'm a woman and we exchange numbers and something goes wrong in this situation. There's part blame on me. Even if I've been hurt in this, there's still a blame on me.
But don't they tell you not to blame yourself in situations where someone's done something to you?
That's not, for instance, I'm not going to use the word when they say you shouldn't. Let's say, for instance, I wore a big chain. I'm going to use this as a scenario, and I went into Dalston or Hackney or Brixton or a bad area with my big gold chain, and somebody robbed me. They'll say it's victim blaming for me to tell myself that I should not have gone to Brixton in my big chain. Yeah. Now, you might say it's not my fault to do that, but I'm going to take accountability and say, you know, okay, but that wasn't a wise decision. Yeah. That's me. Some will say you're victim blaming. That's them. Me. I take accountability. A lot of people don't take accountability.
Alright, can I give you another example? Okay, cool. So let's say now you're in a relationship and the girl cheats on you. Okay, let's say she cheats on you with someone that's richer. Are you gonna say, oh, I'm at fault because I haven't made enough bread to keep money to keep the girl?
As in, am I gonna take blame for that person?
Are you gonna take blame for her cheating on you because you don't have enough money?
In an isolated question that you've given, no. If you just present it like that, isolated, then no. But if there's many other variables, then maybe so. But I think just with this whole outlet of men, especially, how I've helped myself and not ended up doing mad things because I accept my fault in any situation that I'm in. And I think until you can accept your bullshit, a lot of people can't accept their bullshit. And that's why sometimes people end up in situations where they harm themselves, they do crazy things, or they don't want to take themselves out of a situation. They've forgotten the most important thing was choice. Yeah. And most situations we get ourselves in, is one thing is choice. You chose to put yourself in that situation. Not all, but I just use the example of a gold chain. That's just my own example. You go into that place, you got robbed. It's not your fault you got robbed, it's sad. However, that's just my take of it.
Today there was a guy who committed suicide, hung off a bridge of the A2. Did you not see that?
I literally drove past it.
You drove past it?
Yeah.
We still hanging?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, that was today in the afternoon. Well, it goes back to the same topic, mental health. You never knew what was going through.
Something is wrong though, because if you look at the stats, we kill ourselves more than women do by 3 times. Women attempt it more. I was going to make a joke, but I'm not going to make a joke about it. They're teasing us, and I should make a joke, but yeah. Women attempt it more. But, no, because women attempt it more, but just don't go through with it. So, you know, but men actually do it. And if we're doing it 3 times more than women, something is wrong. However we want to say boys shouldn't cry, we shouldn't be emotional, maybe boys are crying too much.
Sorry to cut you, think that's in relation to, so you see, I don't know the statistics of it, so do you think more men are committing suicide now than prior?
No, I think it's just being recorded more, as with most things. It's just being recorded more. Like, when you, I still think there's still like disparity between, like, if you take, for example, International Women's Day. Does anyone know off the top of their head when International Women's Day is?
8th of March.
Or Men's Day?
Well, Men's Day, I don't know.
See, and the thing is, like, when it comes to International Women's Day, and I'm hold on, and I'm not saying like we shouldn't celebrate women. That's absolutely fine and perfect. But you see, when it comes to Men's Day, there's no one cares. It's like a Tuesday or whatever. Like, no one gives a damn. And we're in the sense of like being emotional and having to and being able to achieve certain things and celebrate certain things. Men are not afforded that same almost courtesy, and so like I say, it's a thing of, it's still happening at the same rate, possibly more, but it's just that it's not being recorded. So.
One sec.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, a lot of this stuff we're talking about, a lot of this, even like today, way back when, this all came like from men, and like this is like toxic masculinity doesn't just like affect women, it affects men. Like, this is all the stuff we're talking about is like toxic masculinity, and that comes from like us and like our parents and all these things. Like, the fact that, you know, we're laughing about talking to our friends about things like, me personally, like, I'm someone that's battled with like depression, like I've had counselling, and the only reason I took that step is because I spoke to my friends about it, and they didn't laugh at me. And like, the minute we start doing that, the minute people are gonna, you know, hopefully take the same step that I did, stop taking their own lives. You know, we won't laugh at each other when we're going through things, but you know, the more we laugh at it, you know, it's funny that we are making jokes, but like, the only way this will stop is if we do take it a lot more seriously. So, yeah.
I agree with everything you said. I just hate that phrase, toxic masculinity, because what is that?
I agree as well, and I just want to say big up yourself for taking that step.